Okay, we're going to watch 2 Dave Rubin clips. They are just unbelievably entertaining because we're laughing at him. This man is just mind-numbingly dumb. There's really no other way to put it. It's about Trump. It's about the election. If you have been paying attention to Dave, his content as of recent, since the election, his Twitter feed, oh, wow. It's been amazing. It has been a sight to behold. I am riveted by the things that he posts. And then a day or two later, you're thinking, this can't get any dumber. And then he exceeds your expectations in short time. Wow. Let's take a look at this clip. I'll come back, and then we'll look at the second one.
About the optimism. What I believe is that Trump, in the last 4 years, and even before that, because it was before he was president, at almost every turn has got the media to expose themselves as what they are. He has gotten almost all of his opponents to expose themselves for what they are. He's gotten people to chase crazy conspiracy theories and say things that a week later they find out are untrue. He's gotten smart people to be screaming about Russia and now saying nothing about potential errors or violations in voting. So he's played this game so well that the reason I see some possible chance here is that it seems odd to me that the guy who got everything right, pulled the mask off all of these people for 4 years, only to get to the end of the game, the big boss, if we're in a video game, right? He got to the end of the movie and he didn't have a weapon in his pocket. He didn't have something. Now, maybe that is possible, and maybe he was doing so much of this on the fly that he didn't prepare.
I personally think
so. That is a clip that is just, the man is, he either is very, very dumb, or he really is just sticking to this grift that he's been perpetuating all along. Now, let's touch on the part where he talks about Russia and comparing it to how people were screaming about Russia, but these same people aren't saying anything now in terms of election fraud. These aren't the same things. That's why. They're not the same things. Nobody reasonable was talking about the Russians actually like changing votes or deleting votes or adding more votes or messing with mail-in ballots or, having observers viewing the people count. Nobody was talking. It was nothing like that. What we were discussing, what reasonable people were talking about, and what has been proven to be true by our intelligence agencies is that Russia infiltrated our society via enclaves of the internet, pitted them against each other, spread mass misinformation, conspiracy theories up to wazoo. This caused some portion of Americans' minds to be warped into believing things that were completely unfounded or untrue. Then you have the added wrinkle of Paul Manafort and WikiLeaks and Julian Assange and Guccifer and all the connecting dots there with Roger Stone. We know all that to be true. This is why a lot of these guys, this is why Manafort is in jail. This is why Roger Stone was going to be in jail. Our intelligence agencies connected all these dots. We have all the evidence. But they weren't actually saying that Russia is out there frauding the election and tampering with the actual tabulation of votes. They're not. That's why people who were screaming this about Russia are saying nothing now. And they're also saying nothing now because there is no evidence. There is no credible evidence about election fraud in terms of what Trump and his acolytes are talking about. There's none. There might be an instance or two you can find here of someone committing fraud, but it's not emblematic of the whole democratic process being a scam and we should toss it all out or redo it. That is asinine. That's why you don't hear reasonable people screaming about this stuff now, and that's why you heard them talking about it in 2016 with the whole Russia scenario. They're not the same thing.
To me that something's got to be there.
I personally think that if that does indeed happen, that he's got nothing. It's because he was so busy with such a small group that he trusted
Yeah.
that he was fighting the fire right in front of him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when it came to the election, he wasn't worried about that. And I don't think he had any advisors that had the time to look at the bigger picture. I know. I talked to the White House before. They were not prepared at all. They weren't looking ahead at all for a fight and a battle. They just didn't see it.
Well, look, you obviously you might be right, and I think what potentially would give a little more air to what you're saying is that he's a numbers guy, meaning he loves ratings, he loves people showing up at things. So it is possible that in his mind, in that last week, where he did 5 rallies a day in all of these states, and there's thousands and thousands of people. Biden's doing literally no rallies. Obama is speaking in front of 2 cars. That maybe in his mind he thought, we're going to win this by such a margin, and there's so much energy behind this that whatever they do couldn't screw it up. But somehow, to me, the idea that Joe Biden, who did not campaign, who we all know has cognitive problems, who's not going to be in charge, and all of those things, you're telling me he got something like 15 million more votes than Barack Obama?
Yeah, that is a hard one to swallow.
Mean, something ain't right here. Something ain't right here.
Okay, so there was a lot there to unpack that has just hurt my brain. So he keeps mentioning as if like Trump is some political savant, and he exposed all these people, and he won as a newcomer first time, and I can't believe that he did that then, and now in 2020 he's completely unprepared and he lost. First of all, and then let me just add in, if what Glenn Beck said is true, if he actually thinks that there were advisors in Trump's corner who didn't take into account and understand the magnitude and think of importance when they're running a campaign to win the presidential election, then you have idiots on your advising team. You've employed idiots, and that's probably a bad reflection on you. But I digress from that. Moving on to what Rubin is talking about how Trump was so equipped and did so well and exposed these people and first time around, and how could he do this now? Because has it ever crossed Dave's mind that maybe this Trump, he just stepped in it? It was the perfect time for someone like him to win. He went up against the worst candidate, probably, definitely in my lifetime, but at least in the last 50 or 60 years or so, the worst candidate ever in Hillary Clinton. So he stepped in it there. That's a little bit of luck, right? You're a terrible candidate yourself, but you go up against one who's worse. Now, we can discuss why she's worse. That's a completely different topic. Part of it just has to do with the GOP and right-wing media machine that has torn her down for years and years. But that's a different topic. He got to the point, and to me, this is why I see this, because in 2020, when he's running his campaign all the way through, he was running his campaign in 2020 as if it was 2016. It was almost like he was a one-trick pony. So while there were times where I thought maybe this guy really does know, like, politically, and he's done well, and he's been kind of astute, and it all turned around for me in 2020. He was a complete aloof, like a buffoon. He was running his campaign as if he wasn't president. It's like he only knew how to run as a challenger and not as an incumbent. And perhaps that's because, again, his advisors are foolish and he's just as dumb. But he was going on about how this is Biden's America. These are Biden riots. His whole slogan of "Make America Great Again." Well, if you're president, shouldn't it be great? He was the campaign he was running was, again, as if he was not incumbent. Biden's going to get in office, and he was talking about how coronavirus, watch, if Biden wins, coronavirus is going to disappear. It'll just disappear. They'll stop talking about it. And then at the same time, he talked about how if Biden gets in office, it'll get like the Great Depression, it'll get worse. Does he not understand what's happening now? It showed to me that he really probably just stepped in it in 2016 and got very lucky of the scenario. A lot of the country was in hard times, especially the Rust Belt and white baby boomers who he really galvanized and spoke to. A lot of their jobs were gone, shipped overseas, lost to automation. Their way of life completely changed over the last 2 decades. They can blame some of that on the policies of the elite in this country over the last 2 decades or so. Some of it could be laid there, but he ginned up more support by talking to them and giving them someone to blame. The elites, expertise. He went after experts all the time. He still does. Then he throws in immigrants because, well, if you're going to fearmonger, you got to throw in immigrants in the other. That's one of, the token move. So he came into that. I will say there are probably portions of the media that he did kind of lift the cover off and expose a little bit more. Now, I'm sure we all knew the media wasn't being 100% honest with you, all the time, especially certain outlets. So that was there as well, but he definitely exposed it a little more. But if you saw the way he ran his campaign leading up to this election, I don't think there's a chance in hell you can actually believe that this man was anything but lucky in 2016. Anything but lucky. Then at the end there, he talks about how he can't fathom the idea that Joe Biden, who he said, quote, we know is not going to be in charge. Now, he doesn't know that. It's just it's a stupid meme that's been floating around the right wing, internet enclaves that Biden is a puppet and he's not going to really be in control, and they're just propping him up because they want to usher in socialism or Marxism, and they're going to do it through Joe Biden. It's a dumbass meme. And then the cognitive decline. He's not as sharp as he was, 4 or 5 years ago. I got news for you, bud. Donald Trump is nowhere near as sharp as Joe Biden over these last month or over his last year or so through this campaign that I've seen. So that's a complete non-starter. And then the 15 million more votes than Barack Obama. Well, let's go through this. Last time Barack Obama was in election was 8 years ago. So now you have more people voting just due to the population growing. So there's going to be more people voting in general. And did it ever occur to Dave Rubin that maybe Joe Biden got more votes than Barack Obama? One, because the population grew, but two, because maybe Donald Trump was just hated more than Barack Obama was liked. Perhaps that's why. Could be a really good reason. Makes sense to me. Makes way more sense than thinking some sort of nefarious, bogus plot is going on about Joe Biden's not really in charge and someone else is in charge, and I don't know how he got 15 million votes. Seems kind of conspiratorial to me. Come on.